Good afternoon, everybody. I gotta get used to this particular microphone, but thank you for coming to this event. Thank you for coming to Ignite. I am particularly touched by the fact that everyone could be drinking right now, and in fact, I see that about half of you are. So thank you for doing that. Cheers, cheers, right. So my name is Andrew Welch. I'm not going to linger on this slide too much because I'm not that interesting, but suffice it to say, I come from a company called Applied Information Sciences, AIS, and my focus is on helping large enterprise organizations adopt Power Platform at scale. Now, what I think is more useful are probably these. So a few quick notes. Get in touch with me on Twitter. Love to hear from you. Love to continue talking about scaled adoption, Power Platform in general. But also, I will post the material from this session at my website, runwayview.com. Click on speaking, and I'll post a PDF of all of these slides. Before we go any further, I do just want to kind of give a shout out to my partners in crime when it comes to Power Platform Adoption Framework, which is what we're going to talk about today. This is a team of folks from different companies contributing all over the world. If you use this code here, this will take you to Power Platform Adoption Framework on my website, and then this one will take you to Power Platform Adoption Framework on GitHub. And I'm running low on these, but if anyone would like a Power Platform AF sticker, please see me afterwards. I think I have 7 or something left in this stack. So in any case, so one of the things that I talk about all the time, right, is that we're in really the second wave of adoption of Power Platform in large organizations. So the first wave was with organizations that we've all heard Microsoft tell the stories about. It's Virgin Atlantic, the airline, or London Heathrow Airport, or the French and the Swiss national railways. And that's happened over the last, say, 24 months or so. But what we're seeing now is a second wave of organizations doing this and really bringing to bear Power Apps, Power BI, now Power Automate, which I'm still going to have to get used to that, so forgive me. And of course, Dynamics 365 in bringing their shadow IT out of the shadows and empowering Power Apps developers of all skill levels to build really beautiful and useful things on the platform. So, you look at examples that we've seen all around the world, people, governments using Power Platform to become more responsive to their citizens, organizations using it to, even with Virgin Atlantic, to give massages. You stop at a Virgin Atlantic clubhouse inside of one of those lounges in the airport, and you can come in, you sign in, you can actually sign up for a massage. But we're also seeing organizations use the platform for really big, meaty line of business workloads, right? That some of the organizations that I work with and that I talk with are using Power Platform to really touch $20–30 billion worth of revenue in some of these large organizations. But mature organizations, I think, have realized that they need to adopt the platform with a degree of rigor, discipline, and best practices, right? Or otherwise, we're going to have this big sprawling platform that looks a lot like, I see you nodding, right? That looks a lot like SharePoint 10 years ago. Who remembers that? And that was terrible, right? Right? So that's what the Power Platform Adoption Framework, what this approach really is. So here's what we're trying to do here, and here are our priorities when we talk about adoption. One is to get to value quickly. So a lot of us who've been working in IT for a long time, or working in software development and business applications, we remember a time, right, when a successful project had 6 months of discovery up front, and then we would have a stack of documents and slides, right? So what I tell people is that if you cannot get that first workload migrated to Power Platform within the first 6 weeks of your exploration with this thing, then you are categorically doing it wrong. And a lot of times we can do it in less time. So one is to get to value quickly. The next is to educate, train, and grow the community of users within your organization. So one of the things I always ask is how many people are part of a user group? I always get some hands. So how many people are part of a user group, right, in your community or your city? Great, great. What we're doing in large organizations, though, is we're really building internal user groups, right? So that someone in, your big kind of enterprise grade business, they're not necessarily going to the local user group and airing all of your dirty laundry, right? We've got this really big problem over here that we're trying to solve. So that relationship between IT and business and the community is fundamentally changing, right? Where now, rather than IT being the giver of things, we are now the empowerer of people to build many of their own things, as well as the work that we do in IT organizations to build the big enterprise line of business applications. Another thing I like to talk about is the return on investment and how the economics work with Power Platform. So who's done work with Azure? Who comes from an Azure background? Some of you? Okay. So fundamentally, when we talk about Azure, when we talk about the economics of it, right, the more we consume, the more we pay, right? It's a consumption-based model. But with Power Platform, the economics of that are somewhat altered, right? So if you're going to go out, your organization is going to go out and invest in say the per user license for Power Apps, and you're only going to use one app with that license, well, guess what? That app costs what that license costs. But if we're going to use 40 apps, or if we're going to migrate 100 workloads, or the more we do with the platform, the lower the marginal cost of every workload and every use case and every business activity that we're running. So when we talk about adoption, what we're talking about doing is adopting this thing at scale, because that's what's going to drive our marginal return on investment. And then finally, we talk a lot about citizen developers, but I think it's important to remember that these organizations that are truly adopting the platform at scale, one of the things that they're doing is they're thinking expansively about the types and the seriousness of the workloads, right? So it's an insurance organization that's using Power Platform, the whole platform, to facilitate and navigate the regulatory process of bringing new products to market. Or it's an organization concerned with moving freight, that's using Power Platform to facilitate its entire health and safety and inspection regime. So as you think about this, it's important to think not just about the little apps that we can build, say on a SharePoint list or even with an Excel spreadsheet as our data source, but the really big line of business applications that are really going to move the needle for that large publicly traded organization, or that complex regulated organization, or even something in government. So, in short, the Power Platform Adoption Framework has become the start-to-finish approach to adopting the platform at scale. It's a collection of best practices that is always improving and always being worked on, not just by people at my company, Applied Information Sciences, but by people around the world who are contributing to this thing. And I showed you the GitHub link in a minute, or I showed you the GitHub link earlier, and I'll flash something up here in a moment. So let's talk about how the adoption framework works. And my friend Manuela just walked in, and she and I normally give this presentation together, and it takes an hour, so I'm trying to get this down into 20 minutes for everyone, so forgive me. But let's talk about what the adoption framework looks like. Well, if you're beginning your adoption today, right, or maybe you played with the Power Platform, but you really want to kick it into high gear now, okay, what we recommend is that you begin with what we call a quick start. We used to call this in the adoption framework, we used to call this discovery, but we thought that sounded kind of like old school IT, and we really wanted to emphasize the idea that we're trying to build something here, not research something, not make slides, not make documents. So here's what you want to do in the first, I say 6 weeks, but if you come from a government organization, a government agency, you might be used to a little bit more longer lead time. Give yourself 3 months, just double it, okay? But somewhere in that 1 to 2 month time frame, I think, is generally the sweet spot. So here's what we want to achieve. First, we want to migrate that first workload onto Power Platform. Now let me ask, when you think of building apps or dashboards or data components or automations, who thinks of it in terms of workload? Is this a weird word that I'm using, do you think? Yeah, right. See, no one thinks of it that way. That's kind of an Azure word, right? That's something we see, right? The reason that the adoption framework and the reason that we use this idea of workloads when it comes to Power Platform is because what we found is that there's a tendency in organizations to say, well, I was doing it with this one giant access database, and therefore I'm going to turn this access database into an app. But we think that's actually not the best way to think of this, because a lot of times in times past we had to make choices technology choices to say, cram a bunch of stuff that doesn't really belong together from a usability perspective into one access database, because we need the data to be able to talk with to connect to other data. We need to be able to combine and consolidate all this. So a lot of times, something we did legacy is going to end up being 5 different apps. Sometimes there's something that we did legacy as a bunch of different things that we can now, using Common Data Service, combine it all into one solution, right? So it's just better, I think, rather than saying, hey, we're going to migrate an app to the platform, to say we're going to migrate a workload to the platform, because it encourages us to think first about what the business case is, not about what the app we want to build in the end is. So that prototype migration of the first workload. And the advice that I give to people when you start building apps, your first app, your second app, your fifth app, is to choose something that is important enough to matter, right? It's important enough to make a difference within your organization, but it's not so mission critical that it terrifies people. So, this is a ridiculous example, but my friend Samit, who you've probably seen the videos from Heathrow Airport, Microsoft loves to share those, right? But the joke I make is that Samit would have never succeeded with Power Platform at Heathrow if his first app had been attempting to, I don't know, migrate air traffic control to Power Apps, right? That would have been a categorically terrible idea. So look for workloads, look for use cases that are important enough to matter, but not so mission critical that they terrify people. And really stick to the 6 weeks idea, right? Don't let yourself get into the pattern where it's just another feature, another sprint, or you'll never get anything fielded. Next, stage ABC in a day, app in a day, flow in a day, dashboard in a day, now admin in a day. Put that training on early and often for your end users. Stakeholder working groups, this is about going out into the business and understanding what it is that you already have and what it is that you're already using. So if your organization has an investment and are legacy users maybe of Dynamics 365, a lot of people don't realize that Dynamics is a Power App. Right? Or at least Dynamics, the CE modules are Power Apps, right? Microsoft has re-platformed those pieces of Dynamics 365 onto Power Apps. So if you're using Dynamics for Sales, for example, you're already using Power Apps. You're already using Power Platform. You need to understand how that's being used in the business and how to marry together what you've been doing in Dynamics with what you might be doing with Power Platform more broadly in the future. And then finally, produce a plan and a budget for each of the 3 tracks. This is important to keep yourself on track as you go through the first 6, 12, 24 months of your adoption. So what are the tracks? Well, track 1, this is the app build. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is about building apps and data components in Power BI and automations in, well, Automate. I used to say Flow, I caught myself. Aren't you proud of me? You proud of me? Right. Track 2, this is what we call, this is road mapping. Road mapping is about going out into the business, helping the business identify workloads to be migrated, helping them make good technology decisions about those workloads. Sometimes Power Platform isn't the place to go. Most of the time I think it is, but sometimes it isn't, and you need to help your business stakeholders make those decisions. And finally, maybe most importantly, is track 3, enterprise management. This is about how do we deploy and manage and govern this platform at scale. I could go on about this for days, and I often do go on about this for days, but suffice it to say, it starts with the admin in a day, it starts with the COE starter kit, if you're not familiar with that, but it does not end there. Enterprise management is about growing and developing the community within your organization around Power Platform and then making your organization a safe place for people to build beautiful and useful things on the platform. If you want to use something that's a little more traditional IT, if you've got folks that are more comfortable with this idea, use this. That's why we made this, right? It's there for you. But the fundamental idea remains the same. Track 3, enterprise management, is where we build the foundation for success on the platform. Road mapping is about how we feed this app build engine, right? Whether it's your DIY developers or your citizen developers, or whether it's your a partner that you're working with, or whether it's folks in your internal IT organization who are building these apps. I mentioned earlier Power Platform Adoption Framework on GitHub. This thing, the framework is, we collaborate with Microsoft to build this thing. It's published by AIS, but it is really driven and built by the community. So you are very, very welcome and invited to come join us and submit your ideas and discuss these topics. We're that group of the 5 of us that I mentioned who kind of are, coordinate this for the community around the world, right? We really would love to hear from you. We just moved this to GitHub maybe 6 weeks ago, right? So come and join us, please do. I do want to just finish off talking about enterprise management. When we think about enterprise management, because I said it was the most important track, because if you don't nail enterprise management, you're not going to succeed in your adoption. So we think of enterprise management in 5 buckets or 5 pillars. The first is program management, which is kind of bread and butter IT stuff, right? How do we maintain our backlog and manage these app development efforts, right? But it's doing it with citizen developers included, and you need to think about how to include them in that process. Next is about enterprise architecture, when this thing works. Enterprise architecture, this is about how we structure our environments and we build our deployment pipeline and who owns those environments and how we're going to account for things like GDPR in Europe, how we're going to account for different business units and geographies and that type of thing. Then we have application lifecycle management. This is about actually building the apps. Who's going to build them? What method, what best practices are we going to adhere to in our organization? This is important. The mature security model. When we talk about the mature security model, what we're really getting at is, hey, a lot of organizations have IT security policies. So what we don't want is we don't want you to spend your first however long building this great app that you are totally in love with, only to have someone in IT security shut you down, okay? So be proactive about this. Start working through that process to make sure that you're on the right side of the law when it comes to IT security within your organization. And finally, user empowerment. We used to call this user support measures. We don't call it that anymore because that sounded like the help desk, right? So help desk is important. Oftentimes, folks in this room, the people who are driving this adoption, when all else fails, the restart your computer and is it plugged into the wall, then they're going to say, all right, just go ask the Power Platform team. We need to be a part of that, but really user empowerment is about building and nurturing that community of people within your organization to get the most out of this platform. So if you're just getting started, a few really quick hit best practices. One, establish a center of excellence that will own the platform and drive it forward. I'm here to tell you that it is categorically bad practice to have your Office 365 team own Power Platform. They generally are not set up for that. That's not their priority. You need to really empower and charge people to own the platform and to drive the platform forward, and it does not belong inside of your O365 organization. Next, I think you want to segment the correct licensing blend, all right? Don't just assume that you can't do this if you don't buy a per user license for everyone in your organization. Think deliberately about what people in your organization need to be using the platform for, how they're going to use it, and you may end up working with your Microsoft account team or with a partner to really segment that and come up with the right blend of licensing. Next, I keep walking too far away from this, I'm sorry. So we want architect your environments carefully, right? Think about what your deployment pipeline looks like. Are you going to automate that deployment pipeline? We can do that now. Think about how you want, are you going to have one giant CDS instance for the whole organization? Probably not, right? But you need to put some thought into that up front so that you can scale and grow over time as the platform grows. Next, we talked about that internal user group, but I think that that's really important. And then as you plan your migration approach, think about the volume and the criticality. So let's just say, we're trying to get out of InfoPath. All right, I know one organization that's trying to migrate over 10,000 InfoPath forms to Power Platform inside of a year, right? That's crazy. But think about what that migration approach looks like, and think about what the volume is, and think about how much you need to get done in a period of time, and make decisions, right, about your data source and about how you empower your citizen developers, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, use the Power Platform Adoption Framework as your guide to getting this done, and engage with the community, engage with me, engage with my friend Manuela here. We'd love to hear from you, and we really want you to be a part of this. So again, this is how you can find me on Twitter, runwayview.com, that's my site. I do have a few of these Power Platform AF stickers left. And thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.